All right, it looks like the GOAT, Caitlin Clark, may be finally taking somewhat of a stand versus the nonsense that Stephanie White has been attempting to push upon her. We just saw Sophie Cunningham talk about Kelsey Mitchell potentially winning MVP.
Let me ask you something. What do you do when the organization you work for starts quietly, systematically trying to shrink your role? What do you do when people around you start pushing narratives that somebody else, somebody good, but not you, should be getting your shine? Most people stay quiet. Most people smile, nod, and hope it works out. Caitlin Clark is not most people. And over the last 2 weeks, she just executed one of the most subtle, most calculated, most devastating power moves we have seen from any athlete in this league's history. She didn't call a press conference. She didn't go on social media and rant. She didn't throw her teammates under the bus. She gave an interview to Yahoo Sports, a calm, professional, business-minded interview. And buried inside that interview, wrapped in polite language and a smile, was a warning shot that should have every single person inside the Indiana Fever organization sweating right now. Today, on Simply Explained, we are going to break down exactly what Caitlin Clark said, exactly why it matters, and exactly what it means for Stephanie White's future as head coach of the Indiana Fever. Because once you understand the full picture, the endorsements, the broadcast deals, the signature shoe.
Says this, okay? Caitlin Clark is a marketing juggernaut, but says winning will unlock more. At this point, Caitlin Clark can sign and secure any brand deal she wants. The only thing missing from her meteoric rise to global ubiquity is winning an elusive championship. The Indiana Fever star super.
The broadcast partners, you are going to realize that what just happened wasn't an interview. It was a press release from a CEO to her board of directors. Stay with me. This one goes deep. To understand why this moment matters so much, we need to rewind a few weeks and look at the environment that has been building inside the Indiana Fever organization. Ever since Stephanie White took over as head coach, there has been a quiet but unmistakable shift in the messaging coming out of Indianapolis. The emphasis has moved away from the freewheeling, fast-paced, Caitlin Clark has the ball and magic happen style of basketball, and towards something that, on paper, sounds mature and team-first. Shared, ball handling, multiple creators, an off-the-ball role for Caitlin in certain situations to open up driving lanes for other players. Now, before we go any further, let's be fair. Coaching philosophy is complicated. There are legitimate tactical reasons to want your best player operating without the ball sometimes.
Said, okay, right here, we want to highlight this. If I don't play basketball well, she replied, then none of this is going to come along with it. And that's what the fans love to watch. They love turning on the TV and watching us play the game. I think that's why the WNBA has grown so much. It is because people realize how good our craft is, how good the game is.
There are legitimate arguments that spacing the floor and creating movement offense can make a team harder to guard. We're not here to debate basketball X's and O's today. What we are here to discuss is the narrative that has started forming around this tactical shift. Because coaching decisions don't happen in a vacuum. They generate storylines. And the storyline that has been quietly seeping out of the Fever's orbit is one that frankly should alarm every Caitlin Clark fan paying attention. The storyline goes something like this. Caitlin Clark needs to be more of a team player. The Indiana Fever are bigger than any one person. And maybe, just maybe, someone like Kelsey Mitchell deserves to be mentioned in the same breath as Caitlin when we talk about who makes this team go. Now, Kelsey Mitchell is a phenomenal basketball player. Let's be absolutely clear about that. She is elite. She is a bucket. She deserves every bit of recognition that comes her way. But here's the thing. When Sophie Cunningham goes on a podcast and floats the idea that Kelsey Mitchell could win MVP this year, that is not an innocent observation from a teammate. That is a narrative signal. It's the kind of thing that gets said when a certain culture is being deliberately cultivated inside a locker room or a front office. And Caitlin Clark, who finished 4th in MVP voting as a rookie, while playing through ankle and groin injuries, In an Olympic year, with a compressed schedule, apparently noticed exactly what was happening. Because what she did next was not accidental.
On Saturday, she inked a multi-year extension with Xfinity as a brand ambassador that further establishes her status as a cornerstone in the company's basketball strategy, which includes its designation as the WNBA and NBA's official TV service provider, as Clark grows as an endorsement sensation in business.
Here is where we need to slow down and pay very close attention, because the brilliance of what Caitlin Clark did in this Yahoo Sports interview is not in what she screamed. It's in what she chose not to say and how she packaged the truth she did share. The interview, on its surface, looks completely harmless. She's talking about endorsements. She's talking about growth. She's talking about her appreciation for the WNBA's expanding platform, standard athlete media content. Right? Wrong. Let me walk you through the key moment. The interviewer asks her about her unprecedented commercial success. And Caitlin says something that, if you're just half listening, sounds like a humble acknowledgement of her fans. She says, essentially, if I don't play basketball well, then none of this comes along with it. Because that's what the fans love to watch. They love turning on the television and watching us play. That's why tickets are hard to get right now. When people get in the stands and they see the game, they keep coming back. Read it again. If I don't play basketball well, then none of this comes along with it.
Got this, okay? Caitlin Clark's first signature shoe, the Nike Caitlin 1, is coming soon, September 29th, okay? The technology we're putting into the shoe isn't anything Nike has ever put into a basketball shoe before. So September 29th, we'll have the Caitlin Clark sneaker coming out, and we're looking forward to a dominant MVP.
She is not talking about the WNBA in general. She is talking about her specifically. She is talking about the $16 million in endorsements. She is talking about the sold-out arenas. She is talking about the television ratings that single-handedly drove a $2.2 billion media rights deal for this league. And when she says, the fans love to watch, she is not talking about watching a balanced, team-oriented offensive system where the star player relocates to the corner while someone else initiates. She is talking about the thing that made her famous, the logo threes from 30 feet, the no-look full-court passes, the one-on-one creation, the spectacle that is uniquely, unmistakably Caitlin Clark being Caitlin Clark with the ball in her hands. She is saying, in the most professional and plausibly deniable language possible, the product is me playing my game. Don't water down the product. This is what real superstar leverage looks like. Not tantrums, not leaks to reporters, not passive-aggressive social media posts. A composed, well-calibrated message delivered through a legitimate media platform that every sponsor, every broadcast partner, and every front office executive in this league will read.
Fourth in MVP voting as a rookie. Okay, so while Sophie Cunningham and all them are talking about Kelsey Mitchell might win, Caitlin Clark might win MVP. Caitlin Clark was the odds-on favorite, tied with Asia Wilson to win MVP this season. The girl was fourth in MVP as a rookie. Y'all better get some act right and act like y'all know what the hell is going on around here and understand that this is the Clark Show.
Stephanie White absolutely read it. You can be sure of that. Now let's zoom out. Because to truly understand why Caitlin Clark's words carry the weight they do, you have to understand the financial landscape that she currently occupies. First, let's talk about the raw numbers. According to Sportico, Caitlin Clark earned approximately $119,000 in WNBA salary last season. That is a staggering, almost comical figure when you consider what she was generating for the league. But that is the old CBA, and we will set that aside for now. Her endorsement income, nearly $16 million. In her rookie year, from brands like Nike, Gatorade, State Farm, and others. To put that in context, she made roughly 134 times more from endorsements than she did from her actual salary. She is not a basketball player who also does some ads. She is a global marketing empire that also plays basketball. And every single dollar of that $16 million is contingent on one thing: Caitlin Clark being electric, being dominant, being the story of the WNBA season. The moment that changes the moment, she becomes a secondary piece in a system that neutralizes her superpowers. Every one of those brand relationships begins to quietly reevaluate its commitment. Brands do not pay $16 million for a supporting character. Now, let's talk about the Xfinity deal, because this is the one that most people glanced past without understanding what it really means. Just days before the 2026 season opener, the Caitlin Clark versus Paige Buecher's matchup that had the entire sports world buzzing, Clark inked a major multi-year extension with Xfinity as their primary brand ambassador. The deal further entrenches her as a cornerstone of their basketball strategy, specifically tied to their designation as the official TV and internet service provider of both the WNBA and NBA. That's a big deal on its own. But here is the part that transforms it from a nice endorsement into a genuine political grenade. Comcast owns Xfinity. Comcast also owns NBC. And NBC, for the first time since 2002, just acquired broadcast rights to WNBA games as part of that $2.2 billion media rights deal. So Caitlin Clark is now the primary brand ambassador for a company that is also the WNBA's most important new broadcast partner. The same company whose parent network is going to be airing WNBA games to a national audience for years. Think about what that means from a power structure standpoint. If Stephanie White's offensive system diminishes Caitlin and Clark's role, visibility, and statistical output, she is not just managing a player. She is directly threatening the return on investment of the most valuable broadcast relationship this league has ever had. She is making the main attraction less attractive to the network that paid billions to broadcast the show. NBA executives have had coaches fired for less. Just saying. But the Comcast connection is not even the most explosive piece of this financial story. September 29th. Mark it in your calendar. Write it on your wall. Set 5 alarms. Because on September 29th, Nike is releasing the Caitlin Clark's first signature sneaker. And Nike has gone on the record saying that the technology going into this shoe is something they have never put into a basketball shoe before. Let's just sit with that for a moment. Nike, the most powerful sports brand on the planet. The company that built entire cultural movements around Michael Jordan, around LeBron James, around Kobe Bryant. A company with over a century of innovation in athletic footwear. That company just said, "We are doing something for Caitlin Clark's shoe that we have never done before in the entire history of basketball footwear." That is not marketing language. Number 1, Common A. That is a statement of total organizational commitment. Nike does not build signature shoes for role players. Nike does not invest tens of millions of dollars in research, development, materials, and a global launch campaign for a basketball player who is going to be standing in the corner waiting for kickouts. Nike builds signature shoes for the player, the undisputed, unquestioned, ball-dominant star of the show. Every time someone at Nike's global headquarters thinks about what their return on investment looks like for the Caitlin one, they are thinking about Caitlin Clark with the ball in her hands, launching threes from places that would make most players laugh, threading passes through impossible windows, taking over games in ways that end up on every sports highlight reel in the world. That is the shoe they built. That is the player they built it for. If Stephanie White's system turns Caitlin into a catch-and-shoot player who relocates to the weak side corner, Nike is going to have a very quiet, very serious conversation with the Indiana Fever front office. Not publicly, not dramatically, but the kind of conversation that organizations remember. Billion-dollar brands have ways of making their preferences known without ever raising their voice. Section 5. The MVP conversation. Disrespect and the response. 15, 30, 19, 0. Let's talk about Sophie Cunningham for a minute, because we need to address this directly. Sophie Cunningham is a great teammate. She works hard, she plays with intensity, and she brings a physical toughness that the Fever genuinely benefit from. We respect her game. But when she went on a podcast and suggested that Kelsey Mitchell might be in the MVP conversation this season, that was a moment worth examining closely. Here is the context you need to fully appreciate. Why that is remarkable. Caitlin Clark, as a rookie, with groin and ankle injuries, in a compressed Olympic year schedule where the entire calendar was squeezed and compressed, finished 4th in MVP voting. As a first-year player, while missing 13 games. Think about what that means. Even while playing hurt, even while not having fully figured out the professional level, even in the most physically demanding and abbreviated season format, Caitlin Clark was so dominant that the entire league's voters looked around and said, yeah, she's a top 4 MVP candidate. And Caitlin Clark entering her sophomore season with a full off-season, with a healthier body, with the experience of a complete professional season under her belt, with better teammates around her, is going in as the co-favorite to win MVP alongside A'ja Wilson, the 2 best players in the world, running neck and neck at the top of the odds boards. This is not a debate. This is not a conversation where reasonable people land on different sides. The analytical consensus, the market consensus, the coaching consensus, the media consensus all point to the same place. So, when a teammate goes out and suggests that another Fever player might win MVP, it raises a question. What exactly is being communicated there? Is it genuine belief, or is it something being quietly encouraged by a coaching staff that wants to reshape the narrative about who the centerpiece of this offense really is? We're not accusing anyone of anything. We're asking a question that the context makes completely reasonable to ask, and Caitlin Clark's response to all of it is the part that tells you everything about her mentality. She did not fire back. She did not address Sophie's comments directly. She did not name names or make it personal. She told Yahoo Sports, "You have to be able to win. That is my main focus. Everything else will come along with that." That is a championship caliber mentality wrapped in a velvet glove. She is saying, I am not going to get distracted by noise. I am going to win. And when I win, the MVP, the records, the legacy, the endorsements, all of it is going to land exactly where it belongs.